I'm going to put a link to this track, but this track right here comes from my buddy Tommy Harkenrider, a great guitarist. I'll put a link to his website where he sells some really cool tracks. Technique. I just thought I'd come on and talk about it today, and it ties into something that I've got coming up with my live classes. But I thought I'd talk a little bit about how you can kind of think about working your technique into your approach, into practice sessions, so that they're not just these things that you've learned to do but you're not utilizing. So that's what I'm going to do today. I'll talk a little bit about that. If I can find this live video, maybe I can jump on and answer any questions that are going on. But here's the idea for what's coming up in April, May, and June. A technique series of classes that are at a lower price for those that want to check out my live classes. So those classes will be divided into 3 series, 1 per month. The first one is bending. The second technique-oriented class has to do with tongue blocking, everything tongue blocking. And the third one is miscellaneous techniques, so warbles, vibrato, hand technique, things like that. And that's what's coming up on, again, one of those a month, in addition to sort of my regular offerings that I do, like song studies or other topics or guest artists. So that's one thing. So let's talk about technique. I'll put a link. You can learn more about that. How can I do that? Let me think of a way to do that. I can think of one way to do that right now. So I'll put a link in the chat right now, and then I'll put it later on in the the link to this concept of these classes in the video description after this posts. First, let me just email myself this quick thing as I'm talking to you about technique and what you can be thinking about. You know, throw all your stuff out on the table like you can see it. Like write it down on a piece of paper is what I mean by that, and start to take stock of everything you do. Okay, let me just take somebody who I think is a good representation of an average player and what this might look like. So you grab a piece of paper and you write down on it, single notes is like let's say that's assumed, okay, that you've got good control over that. But you write down everything you're able to do: draw bending, blow bending, warbles, tongue blocking. You be specific, tongue slaps. So get them all written out. And then think about these things. What are you actually using in your playing? And then from there, you'll have an idea of how you should begin implementing, working on techniques into a practice session so that they come out in your playing. So hypothetical. I learned how to do, this comes up a lot. I learned how to do octaves, but I have no clue how to work them into my playing. So we could just talk about that today. And then you can apply sort of a little bit of this strategy towards other things that you're working on outside of just octaves. Before I do that, for those that are here, there's a link coming your way, and this link that I'm posting in the live chat right now, I think I can pin this, is my last email. And this email is all about... Good, I just pinned it. This email is all about the series of classes, so you can learn more, sign up for those. The deal is on those that they're $15 a piece. Unlike normal classes, $20 to $25. They're shorter, they're 60 minutes. Recordings are held for 7 days, so you can download or stream for 7 days. But if you download it, you can keep it permanently. That's the idea for that. All right, let's say it's octaves. Everybody just grab an A harp. And let's say you're like, yeah, Ronnie's right. I got these octaves, but I don't know what I'm doing. First, you can find an exercise, which is one of the things we'll be doing in these classes, getting something that you do every day to warm up. Here's my warm up for octaves on the bottom. I'll just demonstrate the bottom. This simple little pattern sounds like this in single notes. So your job would be to work this pattern out. If you don't know what I'm playing, single note version is 4 draw, 5 blow, 6 blow, 5 blow, 6 blow, 5 draw, 4 draw, 5 draw, 5 blow, 4 blow, 4, 5 blow, and then the draw. I can come back and write it out. You can write it out. So, and you try to play that as an octave form. So it starts on 1/4 draw, 2/5 low. So the warm up's good because it gets you just doing something that's not mindless, but you don't have to sit there and focus on another set of notes or a melody. You're just warming up the technique. Then I would absolutely take both melody ideas and licks and riffs and just figure out a way to place it in there when you practice. Like substitution's the best way. I just showed you a way the single note calling out those holes, and you would substitute them all for the octave version. So a 4 draw is a 1/4 draw, 5 blow is a 2/5 blow. So you find your riff, and then you work one of the notes as an octave. That's a simple substitution. It doesn't need to be anything beyond that. Why? Because you're practicing, when you do this in various areas of the harp, you're working on that jump from right there, 4 draw to 3/6 blow. That's part of the practice, not just getting the octave, but placing it in the phrase. And having to do so from different embouchures, like the single note from lower down on a 4 draw. That's good practice. It might have been that you were coming from something totally different to the 1/4 blow from somewhere like 1 draw, 2 full step bend to 1/4 blow, which would be like a 5-chord kind of cool move. Part of it, you could do more to that. So that's my best suggestion: is find the riffs, the examples, find the riffs, and then find the melodies, and then see how you can naturally substitute just a little bit at first. Like if you had a melody, took the 1 draw and made it a 1/4 draw. Things like that. All right. Somebody in the chat says, "Hey Ronnie, I cannot articulate octaves and well, you need to get the technique down. Obviously, what I would recommend is focusing on the tip of the tongue for these octaves and splits. This is something we're going to cover heavy in May in the tongue blocking class. But take the tip of your tongue and focus your energy on the tip of the tongue. You only need to cover, for certain octaves, for many of them, the majority, you only need to cover 2 holes. So just keep that in mind. Experiment with how far you have it in your mouth or how far outside your mouth you have it. It takes a little bit of practice. You're just finessing. You're messing around until it settles. But when you do land on it, you'll know, because this sound has a distinct shimmer quality to it. So once you get it, slow down and really figure out, where am I? What am I doing? How far is it in my mouth? Where exactly is my tongue? And what does it feel like? Have a moment where you just don't move and you're holding that. But let's say that this concept seems very straightforward, which hopefully it does. You learn the technique and you find a way to substitute a note with the technique. The same thing goes for a lot of techniques. So as you work through this process, you might be working on tongue flutters and go, well, what types of this is a better question to ask yourself. What types of areas does the technique serve best? Like a flutter and a warble and vibrato, they're often long notes, but it might not necessarily be a long note, but they're a great place to start. So you start swapping out any long note areas, become something like, or so we're just substituting that one note, that 4 draw. So you have to get creative after a while. I've always found that if I keep it light and keep it fun, I'm engaged and I'm learning from these moments in my practice sessions, as long as I'm switching it up. So yeah, welcome if you're hanging out today. Today is Wednesday. It's about to hit 3 p.m. here in Central. I was going to say Central Time Zone in Central Illinois, where I am. So I hope that if you're not, let me give you a good reason to consider these classes. through that link that I have pinned right now. Go read that email. Open it up in a browser so you can catch it later. You know, it's like this. If there's one part of your playing you always have to continuously work on, it's technique. It's something that never goes away. Where I'm always working on all of my technique so that it's sharp. It's no different than anything. If you don't use it often, you're going to lose it. So the idea behind these classes was, this is a topic that I might rotate a couple of times through each year. So like I do 3 months with 1 month, one class per month of technique. The next 3 months might be a different series like blues licks. That's what I'm thinking. And that's a month by month, different scenario for second, third position type thing. Then go back to technique, one of those classes per month, repeating so that you can have a chance to take these with me often. No different than if you were going to like a Pilates class to work on stretching or whatever. You need to have somebody there that's pushing you to do these. You need the ideas, the exercises, and you need to be able to ask questions sometimes to say, am I doing this right? Or what could I be doing wrong? Which is another benefit of those classes. Let's take one more technique. Let's take one that's not so obvious, like hand technique. You learn how to do some of this, but you're not sure. The problem is you're not sure when to bring it in, and that's what it sounds like. It sounds uncertain when you're using it, maybe. Everything you should do should be very intentional and should feel like I'm doing this for this result. So if my hand is there, it's for a reason. Even if it's not opening and closing, it's there to darken or mute the tone a little bit. Versus which is a little louder and brighter with the hand open and a little bit darker with it closed. And so practice with intention. So you can write down your list of things in the world of hand techniques. Get specific. The more detailed you can be with your list, like, I use my hands, great. Well, what do you do? I do a hand wah. Well, how do you use it? Dirty notes, 2 notes at once, 1 note, octaves. Have you thought about bringing it into other techniques? A gentle sort of on and off versus the Sonny Boy or Walter, where he's really, Big Walter's kind of really using this area, this tone. So think about which type of sound you're going for is what I'm saying. And then do that same substitution perhaps at first. Like I'll pick a note that I'll embellish with hand technique. But try to think outside the box. Think about whether you're going to bend on that note. Think about where else you could bring it in for other techniques and things like that. Yeah, thanks for the reminder. Hit the thumbs up if you dig the video. It helps me reach more people. I know I haven't been active trying to teach or share, so today is a moment where I can spend doing that with you guys. Have a little bit of time here. Octaves sound like an accordion sometimes. Absolutely. Yeah, cool. Right on. Thanks, Tyler. So you might think about like it by bend. I think we ignore the way we embellish the bends. We don't think about that enough. So that's why bending is a whole class topic under those technique classes, where bending gets its own, because we got draw bending, blow bending. It's something you just constantly have to work on. So think about these bends and the way you're using your bends in general. This is kind of a side topic, but it's also related to what I'm talking about. Like, no different than any other technique. If improvisation is the name of the game, people can improvise without bending. So why use it? Well, there's a lot of reasons. It adds beautiful sound and color. It's bluesy. Plus, there are notes that you actually want to access that are located on the harp in certain registers only as a bend. So you need that technique to get the note. But they're the heart and soul, I think, of the diatonic, of the 10-hole. The reason I picked it up was that somebody was bending a note, making that thing cry, You can add bending to warbles. You can add, you can hand wah and bring in the bends on that technique. So again, this is another area to think about. How many techniques are you combining? I have a whole class that I did on this called blending technique, because I would hear that people would learn it and were unsure of how to bring in various layers of technique. And so there's something else you guys can consider is Am I layering technique? Like, am I using warbles and bends at the same time? Am I using, gosh, now I'm putting myself on the spot, hand technique and vibrato? Anything that's layered where you're doing multiple things at once. Dirty notes, bending vibrato. So you're thinking about that layering in that way, but you're also thinking about bringing in multiple techniques within single phrases sometimes. Not for the sake of being clever, but because it might call for it. You might go, did you catch it? What were the two techniques that I played outside of single notes? What are the two standout techniques? Well, there's warbling and there's an octave. So, of course, we can bring in multiple techniques into a phrase. And if you're keen on advancing your improvisation game, it would be wise to be thinking about experimenting with it just so that it comes out sometimes naturally. It's not like I think everything should be riddled with all this technique constantly. That's not. It's just so that you have the option. You have it accessible to you. So yeah, this idea of sort of me putting that question out there, what is your technique doing for you? The unfortunate part is sometimes you've learned technique and it's a hindrance. And sometimes it's that you're just not even utilizing it in your playing, but sometimes it can get in the way. Like you go for it and it just doesn't sound right. I know this because I've worked with many students, and then it's just, oh, that throws you off when you're playing, when you're trying to play. You're like, it didn't come out right. Maybe hold on to that and don't bring it into your playing yet. Keep it for the practice sessions. Really pick your moments where you choose to bring it in live, like when you're actually jamming or recording yourself. Like then it's really intentional. This idea of things being intentional only happen when you become hyper self-aware, and that's another topic that I'm just throwing out there, is that self-awareness is this thing I think about constantly, just as a human being, besides my musical stuff, like, of course, but just being self-aware is a good thing. You catch your habits. Sometimes they're habits, you're like, whatever, it's a habit, I don't care. But sometimes it's a musical thing and you're like, I didn't even know I was doing that. Okay, I don't like that, I want to eliminate it or change it. So the only way to be self-aware is often recording yourself, and just being cognizant, slowing down when you play, and really just being very intentional with how you're going to present a note and or technique so that it comes out with that intention. So it's like you've got to get it at a slow pace so that as you speed it up, it sounds right. Those are the things that I think tie into this topic. Thanks for tuning in to this stream everybody that's here live. Again, I demoed this little track, which I'm going to go out on. It's a lump in the key of E. That's just a shuffle for those that don't know the term. And my good buddy, Tommy Harkenrider, I got these from him. So I'm going to share his link to his website where he offers a variety of kind of mixed bag of blues and jazz and jump blues. And it's just really cool. Sounds like this. That's cool. This again comes from like, I think there's 4 volumes that Tommy's put out. I can't remember where this one comes from, but you'll see it because it'll say lump. That's what they call it. That's a common nickname in Chicago. You call a shuffle a lump. So thanks for hanging out today. Um, yeah, Michael, sorry. No, Mitchell. That is right. Mitchell asked, can you talk about being ahead or behind and pushing and pulling the rhythm? Yeah, it's harder to do with a backing track, but in a way, I guess not, because really it's static, right? It's not going to change. And this idea, just start by maybe experimenting where you come in. Coming in before the chord change, on the chord change, and after the chord change. Just explore that is my advice. It's a way for you to build tension in either direction, one could argue, and it has just slightly different results. This is a different track. Maybe like a 2-beat or something like this. Instead of like right on the beat, just demonstrate on the beat. On the beat. We're coming a little early. I like coming in early with the band sometimes before the chord changes because it helps sort of like create this idea of like you're pulling them into this chord versus you following them after the change. It's really just an experimental thing. The push and pull of the rhythm is a great area to experiment for your improvisation, and I think that the more you also experiment with syncopation, this idea of coming in on those offbeats and rhythmically accenting, that's where this becomes really interesting. What you're talking about, Mitchell, pushing and pulling the rhythm, where you can kind of like so you can start to play around with like on beat, off beat, go back on beat, things like that. Hey Peter, thanks for tuning in. All right, y'all, that's all I got today. Check out those technique classes. You cannot go wrong. I mean, it's going to be like 60 minutes full of filling your brain with concepts on not only the actual approaches to the techniques, but the exercises and ways in which you can begin to utilize the exercises in your playing. And I think that we all need to get together and work on this stuff often. So if that's your bag, maybe I'll see you coming up here in the following months. Thanks to everyone who came out to the blues jargon class. That was fun. And to the summit just before that with Shane Sager. Appreciate you. And I hope to see you soon. Make it a good one.